Right, I'm going to start today by fitting these bearings, and what I've been doing, and I forgot to put the camera on because I was going to show you this, just a bit emery, Scotch-Brite, and basically I've just been cleaning the inside of the hole where the bearings go in. I've done both sides, and the reason I use Scotch-Brite is it won't actually remove any of the material, so your holes don't get bigger. But once you've cleaned your holes out, just give them a wipe out, make sure there's no debris in there. And also check the edges, make sure there's no dings or out in them, because if there's something sticking, it can cause your bearing to go in like not straight, which looks like my battery's going to run out. I'll just knock it off and put a new battery. Right, back again. I should have checked that before I started recording. Didn't realise my battery was that low. Where was I? Yeah, check for any burrs or any nasty sort of, you know, it could have had a knock and just put a little dimple in. If you do find any, just a light bit of emery on anything you find. As I say, if it catches the bearing when you're putting the bearing in, it can cause the bearing to drag on that point, which sort of take it insideways rather than straight. And also it'll knurl up inside and make it a right arse to get it back out if you ever need to change them again. So I've cleaned them out, Scotch-Brited them, cleaned them out with a rag, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use a little bit of this, despite what anyone says, because these things aren't like in an engine. Come on. Yeah, because these things aren't in an engine, I won't be putting a lot of that on. Just lube the inside edge. Just helps it go in smoother. You know, at the end of the day, it's just a swing arm, and its movement is very minimal. So, you know, just put a bit of lube in there just to help it in. Now, I've already got a few bits and pieces together. On the swing arms, like the normal swing arms, you know, just like a soft tail swing arm, it says to tap the bearings in the books. Use like a driver, that's the thing. I don't bother that way. I actually I use a socket, which, as you can see in there, a clean socket, because you don't want any debris dropping out of it, and it fits the outer race. So basically I'll have that, I'll have a bit on the inside with a bar going through, threaded bar, and then I'll hold that end, this end that's locked up, and rotate that end, which just slowly pushes the bearing in nice and steady. So as the bearing's just decided to sit so far in already, I'll just leave that there and get the rest of the kit together. Takes a little bit of fiddling about to start with to get it all set up, but once you've got it sort of lined up, it's pretty straightforward. So just wind the the nut up until you start snugging up. And what I shall do, once you've got it sort of snug, just make sure everything's sitting where it should be. And that the bearing's going to go in straight. There's a ratchet spanner, but to start it off I use just two normal ones, so lock that end on and then just slowly wind that in until you know that your bearing's starting to move, which it is. Once you've got it so it's going in, then you can start on the with the ratchet. And that has just gone slightly wrong. Right, I never got my socket on properly, so loosen it all back off. This is where you've got to be careful with doing it this way, is just make sure that the socket is on properly. And that it doesn't keep slipping down like that. There's a possibility here that I've picked the wrong socket up. Shit spanner, that one. Right, I'm just going to stop here a second and I'm just going to get another ratchet spanner. I'll be back in a minute. Right, I've had a change. What I was trying to do was using socket and a plate, I would like drive the bearing in. When I knocked the camera off to get a different spanner, I had a look at my setup and I wasn't happy with it at all. The reason I was trying to do it with a socket is most people have got sockets. You know, I was sort of trying to show that you could do it with a socket and wind it on. But I wasn't happy with how it was looking, you know, and the socket kept slipping, and that's why I was going to get another spanner, because I thought it was the spanner that was causing the problem. So I've took it apart. What I was, thing on the end, socket on that end, threaded bar through the middle of it all, wind it on and pull it in. I wasn't sure that that was going to pull in straight with that setup that I had. So what I've done is I've actually ratcheted out my proper, what I've got here is it's a proper turned piece that sits on the bearing, and on the other end it's got a thrust washer in that bit there, so that when you're turning the bolt, the thrust washer can turn and it's not trying to turn this bit here. And then just a flat plate on the other, because these bearings won't go all the way through anyways, so just a flat plate on there to bolt the other end of that to. So the socket, in my eyes, the socket failed. As I've said to you, in the manuals and when we were getting shown stuff, you have a drift, like a a tool that, I mean, even a socket at the end of the day, they put on and then you tap it in. I don't like tapping bearings. It's so easy to slip, you know, slip to one side and bang it, and that's, you can actually damage the outer race of the bearing, if you know what I mean. So I've swapped over, and I've got what's that, right in front of me, I couldn't see it for looking at it. Got my different spanners, got my different setup on, so I just had that one on. Now this is what I was trying to do using the socket, but as you can see there, it's just winding it on. Now you don't want to go and press really tight, you just want it so that this circlip touches the edge, and that's it, that's all you need. Doesn't need to be tight. I'll swap it over, and that's it. You can let it off. And then this is just a plate off a homemade puller. People who've watched my videos know that I like to make things, my own tools, rather than line somebody else's pocket for tools that most folk will only use once. And the next thing to check, get yourself a torch and have a good look and make sure that it is seated all the way around. That verifies that it hasn't gone at an angle. I know this one hasn't, but just still check. And then I use a bit of brass bar. You should be able to do this with your fingers, but in fact you should be able to move it around with your fingers. It does get slightly stiffer once you've installed it. Then, like when you take it out of its wrapper, you can put your finger in, you can move it about. Once you've pressed it in to the swing arm, that swivel bit does get a little bit stiffer, but as you can see there, I can move it with my fingers, so it's not like tight, but it does get a tiny little bit stiffer. And that's another reason I don't really like using a socket to hit them on with. The socket I was using, I noticed when I switched the camera off, I noticed the socket had actually pulled slightly to one side, because it has like a rounded face on that side of the socket. It'd be better if you can get one somewhere, or if you can get a proper thing machine, yeah, you're spot on. But if you can get a more flat bottom socket, it'd probably be a lot better. But the recommend is a drift or a socket, put it on and then hit it with a hammer and drive it in. As I say, I don't like doing that, because if you've got it on and it slips like that just as you're going to hit it, you can knacker the bearing. So, right, seeing as I've sort of fucked that side up, I'll start again on this side and show this one going in. In fact, what I'll do is I'll just knock here off and I'll move it to this side so you can see from the proper side. Back in a sec. Right, I'll keep leaning in front of the camera because my tools are down here. Another little bit of oil, same as on the other side. You don't want a massive amount, just a little dab on your finger. It's just to lubricate, help it going easier. I just use my engine assembly lube. It does the job. And you can see on that side as well, I can look down there and you can see straight down. I know you can't see this very well, but straight down it hasn't actually come through, so using the flat plate on that side's fine. A bit of rag. And before I set this one up, I'll just show you what the score is here with this. I'll just unscrew the flat plate. what I've got on here is it's a proper machined thing. As you can see in the end there's the hole. Then just a normal washer, and then I've got a thrust washer, which you can see there, they come in 3 pieces. You've got the 2 races, 2 outer races, and then the actual bearing in the middle. I say a thrust washer, a thrust bearing is what I meant to say. So that all just goes on. I might need to wind it out a bit because I've just drove that one in. I'll just stick that there for a second and get the other bearing out. And the circlip that's on these is to the outside, not the inside. So I'll see if this one will sort of sit in a little bit. They don't always. You also got to be careful when you do that. If you walk away and it fucking falls out. You also want to see that if you are doing that, that it's sitting, that it's going to go in a bit squarish. Right, so through, line the, well, I'll get it wound on a bit first. And I'll pull that up and get the nut on the back to lock that. Push that up so it's on the bearing face. Just get it so it's sitting centre on the bearing. And then basically just get your spanner on and just turn it slowly to start with, just to make sure it's going to actually pull. Right, what I've done, I took this back off and I've actually put some oil in my thrust bearing, and I've just put it, as you can, I don't know if you can see the darker patch there, just put some oil on the threads. I noticed then when I was starting to turn it in, it was looking feeling a bit as if it was getting a bit catchy. So put it back together, so we'll carry on. Took that off the wrong way. Slip everything back on there. Get my torch and just check that that's all the way. Get my bar. As you can see, that's moving freely. I should be able to move it with my fingers, which can. as I say, it's a bit stiffer. Put it through that way. But it is, you can move it. And what I'll do in a sec is I'll use like the bar and pull it round, and I'll put a bit of that in it, and then just sort of work it round. But I'll do that. I'll just do that off camera. Basically, I'm just getting the and that should now. That's if I pull these off. These are off the pivot shaft. And this is how it actually, you shove them in so far, offer it into the bike. This is the exact same with a standard swing arm as well. Once you've got it offered up, you push them through each side, and they go, these bits that are sticking out go into the frame. So that'll actually support the swing arm without having the pivot shaft right through. And as I say, if you it can go in slightly out of line, you know, so what I'll do is I'll put the shaft through. In fact, I'll do that now. If you put the shaft through, this doesn't matter right at this moment in time. But because one of them's not sitting straight at the minute, that's it. Give it a waggle, and the spherical bearings actually just suddenly square themselves up. So as you can see there, it's just all nice and basically that's all in line now. But as I say, I've got to put a little bit of lube inside, you know, just to make sure that it's not bone dry sort of thing. So we'll come back to that shaft in a minute. So what I'll do now is, in fact I can just quickly show you. Don't stick it through too far. Get it so it's, might be able, no, I can't. Get it through with my finger instead. This one's a little bit stiffer, but it's free. Once I get it through so far, I can just squidge a little bit of assembly lube in. Get a bit onto there. Cram a bit actually inside there. And same on the back side. Get a little bit on the actual put my bar back in. I mean, that's already getting and basically that's already loads looser now. I don't think they come pre-lubed, to be truthful, because I've noticed this a few times on a few when I've done a few sets of bearings. Not obviously in the last week, but obviously over time I've done a few sets of swing arm bearings, and I've noticed the only ones that seem to be nice and free when you put them in, and I don't mean free as in slack, I mean free as in that you can tell they've been lubed up properly, is the genuine Harley Davidson ones. All the others, the aftermarket stuff, I find that you have to put a bit of lube in them to free them up. So while I'm on with it, I might as well do this one. So as I say, just put the bar in, you just want to pull it round. Be able to get that one a bit further with my finger because that one wasn't as tight. If you can see that, I'll just bring it in a tad more. So just a bit of assembly lube, and you want it onto the outer edge of the spherical, and then rub a bit into the actual bearing housing part. It's the outer race is what I mean, bearing housing. And then same on this side, bit of oil in there. Now these won't be coming back out. It's not advisable to press these things back out and then reuse them. They don't come out the same as the go in. I mean, you can if you want to. I just wouldn't recommend it. For the price of them, you know, why fucking risk it? Right, as I say, get the bar back in, and then just sort of get it through its paces, and it sort of lubes it all up nicely. You can move it all nicely with your finger. Right, and that'll do on that for now. So that's the bearings installed. As I say, on the first one I was trying to show it using stuff that most folk will have at home, sort of thing. If you want to tap them all the way in, tap them all the way in, just be careful. I personally just don't like tapping bearings in. But yeah, wind them in, but I haven't used that tool for a while. And as I say, when I was starting to tighten it up, I could feel it sort of grabbing on the thread. So I stripped down a bit of oil on it just to free it all up, and then as you saw, it went in. No problem. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to knock it off, and I think I'll make myself a quick brew, and then come back and we'll actually put this into the frame. So I'll be back soon. Right, we're going to put this swing arm into the frame. And what I've just done off camera is I just checked the measurements of this swing arm across the bearings compared to the bearings on the standard swing arm. And I've come across it before on more than one occasion. When you put new bearings in, it's a very snug fit to get it to go in, and I think this one's going to be the same, because measuring it, it's like the original bearing. I put the shaft through the swing arm on the original swing arm just to straighten everything up, put my tape measure through, and off the top of my head I can't remember the exact figure, it was something like 274 I think it was. But when I measured the Trike swing arm, it was 274, but it was on the other side of the mark. So it's the thickness of the mark sort of difference, if you know what I mean. So it could be a snug fit, this. So what I'll do is I'll ratch out my nylon hammer, Just the little one, don't need the big one. Handy. Still there from the other day, from yesterday. So just, you can see by my hand, it's not a massive nylon hammer, just a little one. Just to tap it, you know, to get it to go in. That's if it needs it. I mean, from past experience, new bearings, it tends to go in sort of tight. Right, so offer it up, slide one side in. Yeah, it's going to be a snug fit, this one. So I'll slide that side in, because I can hold it up. Hold it up with my knee, and then I can tap this side in, take that side out a little bit. It sorts itself out. It's just a case of wiggling it about until it gets itself somewhere near, and then it's just a case of looking through the sides. Wheel it in a bit more. Now you might have seen the bike move then. What I've done is I just took the pressure off these axle stands just to just so it probably wouldn't, but just so there's no pressure on them in case there was any slight movement on the right. And now, if I can remember where I've put them, I'll get one of the... No, I don't know if you're going to see this. Can't fucking see. Tap it down a touch, and them little sleeves just keep an eye on where the hole's lining up, because eventually that sleeve will just come through. Right, that's sleeve so far in. Now I don't want to go over the top with it, but I can lower that down. And what I'll just do is I'll bring the camera down. As you can see in there, I've got the sleeve so far on, but the swing arm's at a slight angle at the minute, so I don't want to push that all the way in yet. So I'll get this side lined up. So we'll set you back up over here. And I'll get my other sleeve while I'm at it. So what I need to do now, I might block your view a bit here, because what I need to do now, that moved quite easy, but I need to keep looking down this side. I need to feed that one in, which you get. Right, I'm just going to block your view for a minute, just while I have a look in here. So I just need to lift my swing arm so I get it in the right place, which is easier said than done when you're trying to do some camera work. It's not far away. If I just lift it up, give it a tap. It's not too far. I think what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and step into there so that you can sort of semi-see what I'm doing. I'll need to unplug the charger. So I'll just switch that off a second. What this will allow me to do is look in this hole and waggle about without sort of blocking your view too much. I still need to be able to knock the fucking pin back out. Oh. It's very close. I've got tools under my feet. Right, I just need my torch. Once it's been in and out a couple of times, it's almost as if it bends itself in place. I mean, that is just a tiny bit out. Just wants to go down a cock here. I don't know if I'm actually moving it, huh? Right, that is near enough in. So, get myself back to this side. That's it. Now I don't know if you can see. Oh, you can't because that fucking bar's in the way. But what I will do is just stick it into there, turn this round. As you can see there, the sleeve's gone right in. So, if hopefully I should be able to see that side. Move the belt to the other side of that. So, where's my fucking hammer gone? Right, I'll just use the handle of the hammer. So I'm trying not to block your view here. And there, that's just shoved that one all the way home. So, just move you out of the way again for a sec, make sure you can still see. Yeah. So, that's your swing arm. Ooh, interesting. What is it that's catching there? Very interesting. Little modification I'm going to have to do here. I'll either move that, which I think is just, yeah, that thing there, you can just see it just there, that's obviously battery for the starter, etc., or a big fuse. I think what I'm going to have to do is mount that a different way, because the back of this is touching on it. So, or I just take off a little bit of you know, the brace that was on the back of this, when it's rounded off at the top, just take it at more of a deep angle so that it doesn't come anywhere near that electrical bit. But it wouldn't actually need that much off neither. But without touching the electrics again, as you can see there, the swing arm moves nice and freely. Now what I'm going to try and do is, because you won't be able to see that side, I'll just put that one in. It might not want to go in anyways because of what's in the way. Block your view a sec. Right. So what I'm doing here is hopefully that one will go in. Yeah. So that's the spacers fit fine, which is good. So what we'll do is we'll feed the pivot bolt through, and it goes in from this side. But what I might try and do, get that belt out of the way there, I'll try and set you up so you're looking into here, because you won't be able to see anything in this side as I start pushing it through anyways. So I'll just bring you round here and I'll try and get your I might even put, bring you in a bit closer, I might even put a light into there so you can see. So lock that in place, try and go in a bit more, find my torch. It's magnetic, so I'll stick it to the, switch it on. Yeah, you can see right in there now. So what I'll do is I'll get the pivot shaft and feed it through. I want to feed it through from the right hand side of the bike, but while I'm doing it I need to put one of the spacers in, which you wouldn't be able to see. But you should be able to see it coming through the threaded end there. That's just come through the back of the gearbox. And then you get the other spacer, which I'll see if I can get up from underneath so as don't block your view. The other spacer just moves that, goes into there. That's it, it just pushes through. Now then, I can't see. Right, basically it has come through. Where's the fucking washer at? Yeah, it's come through, and I'm just going to put, can't see now myself now because things turn way around. I've got the washer and the nut off this end of the shaft, so I'll just screw that on. So that's on, and I'll just move here again onto your view. Zoom back out. So that's obviously the torch on the. In fact, if I hold that up, and that's the swing arm fitted. Now I haven't tightened it up yet, so I will tighten it up to spec. But what I'll do, I'm just going to look behind here and see what sort of... Yeah, it's definitely that bit of brace that's catching on that electrical bit. But what I'll do is I might get a little block or something to sit underneath this end to keep the swing arm up about that level, and we'll bolt some plates on, because there's some more what do you call it that I want to be doing, checks. So I'll just knock you off for now. What I'm also going to do, I'm just going to drop this jack back down so that the pressure's back on the bars. And that again makes the bike secure again, because one thing with these jack stand things that you put underneath, as you maybe noticed when I was putting the swing arm in, the bike can actually slide on it. So yeah, just drop it off the stand back onto its axle stands, and it's now secure again. So just temporarily knock you off, I'll be back in a minute. Right, what I'm just going to quickly do is torque up this swing arm pivot shaft. So I've got it set 149 Newton meters or 110 foot-pound. I haven't got a lot of movement. Now I haven't got there yet, but what you'll find is if you put your hand in, your spacers are all starting to go tight, which is what you want. Right, that's that, 149. And then check your swing arm should have gone tight now. But once you've waggled it about a bit and everything centres itself back up, it'll free up. So that's cool. As I said, I've had it before with standard swing arms, put new bearings in, tight to go in like you saw, get it all put in, get the shafts in, etc, tighten everything up to torque, and then it goes dead stiff. I have had it before where I was unable to move the swing arm and I just backed it off a little bit, up and down a few times, tightened it back up and down a few times, then torqued it again. I was able to move it, and the more I moved it, the more it sort of settled itself in and just started moving as normal. So I'll just do the same thing with this. I just waggle it up and down a few times. Right, the battery went again, but before I changed the battery, I've been at the back of the bike ragging the swing arm up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, basically getting it so it beds itself in. One thing I would recommend to anybody, make sure your bike's in service mode, and if it isn't, make sure you've got the keys in the garage, because while I was ragging I was starting to get rough with it to try and free it up and set the fucking alarm off, and the keys were in the house. So needless to say, I had to gnash in and get them. But after a lot of ragging about, as you can see there, it's free, but no there's no, the movement you're seeing is the bike side to side. But yeah, the swing arm's actually free now. So it's just a case of rag it and rag it and rag it until it fucking sets itself in place. I had to be careful when I was doing it so as not to touch over on these electrics at the top. And I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think I might have touched the electrics and that's maybe what set the alarm off. Because yeah, I was ragging it and it was thinging about, but normally an alarm gives a couple of beeps to let you know how I'm armed, be careful. But this thing just fucking wee straight away. So I think it maybe arced up on that. But yeah, as I say, that's a modification for later. I'll just splice a lump off so it doesn't touch. But no, it's nice and free now. So that'll do for me. So what I'm going to do now, or should I say what I'm going to do next, is I'll get the swing arm up to a point where it's somewhere, well I don't know, somewhere at a decent height where it's not going to touch them electrics, somewhere around about there hopefully. And then I'll bolt these plates on, and I'll check the plates are bolting on in a sort, how can I put it, I'll use my levels so that the plates when they're on straight up and down, as in if I'm putting the plate, well it actually goes that way around, if I'm putting the plate on like that, I'll put a level up against these two so that it's straight up and down, and I'll also put a level across the top of the pair of them so that they're equal. Also I'll check when I do set it up that that's level. If not, I'll shim out underneath here until that swing arm's level. I don't know if the bike is level at the minute, so that's, as I say, that's something I'll check. But if need be, I'll shim it up until it's level and then level on the swing arm, and then when I put all these in, they'll go on using levels so that everything's staying right where it should be. And what I might even do is maybe on the inside edges I might put a couple of once it's all tightened up, before I fit the axle obviously, I might drill a couple of holes through the plates to put like pins in, like locating pins that'll stop, this is once I've got it all level and it's all tight, it'll stop them actually twisting and moving about, because the locating pins will, like dowels, they'll hold it in place. So that's what the next step will be. But for now I'm going to knock you off because I want something to eat because I'm peckish. I'll go and have something to eat and I'll be back soon. Alright.